Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beard and a Half Movie Reviews. I'm Tyler, and there's no Garrett today. Garrett, who knows? He went on a camping trip last week. Haven't heard from him. There's speculation he's gone missing, but no efforts to send a search party are underway currently. So maybe I'll have him back next week. Who knows? Stick around to find out, though. Let's see. This week, today's episode is Dune, the 2021 version, not the 19. I knew it. 1984 Dune. Before we get into it, everybody listening on Apple, Spotify, Podnods, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm also on YouTube. Me and Garrett are on YouTube. Beard and a Half Movie Reviews. Go check us out. Give us a follow. You can watch this, when you're going to bed at night. Do it however you see fit. If you live an active lifestyle, yeah, go ahead and just listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Either way, it doesn't bug me that much. But yeah, let's jump into it. This one, sorry, Dune came out on October 22nd. It was released on HBOmax and in theaters. And I had the unfortunate experience of watching this at home. I don't believe that this movie is meant to be enjoyed at home. I believe this movie is meant to be like a sit down, go to the movie theater kind of thing, get back out there. Because I sat in front of my computer with my surround sound on, and it still wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Maybe, those people that have the luxury of having like I don't fucking know, a movie screen projector, something like that, and just blast it out and have surround sound, yeah, it might be good. If you have a 50-inch TV with surround sound, maybe, but not the full experience still. But all in all, genuinely, still a good movie. I will say this, if you want to watch the movie first, which I would actually strongly recommend. I wouldn't listen to the podcast, but I'm not going to go into such detail that it's going to give away anything. To those of you that have read the books, then this is going to be nothing for you anyways. So with that, I know I'm like, 3 minutes into this, there are going to be spoilers. I promise you that. So I might not give you a warning right before I say it, but spoilers. Okay. Now that that's covered, let's talk about the backstory just a little bit. So I was told to do my research before watching this movie, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. I kind of tried to do a brief synopsis, but then I thought about it and I was just like, you know what? Never saw the old Dune, never read any of the books. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to watch it and give my unbiased opinion. That way, I have no foregoing knowledge of the movie or anything like that. What I did find interesting, the book was published in 1965, I believe. And I'm reading this just straight from a source, but I will summarize that way, Anyways, it just says that Dune had a lot of film prospect, and a lot of producers wanted to have the rights to produce this movie and make it after it came out. Since 1971, they wanted to do that. And a lot of producers tried to make it, and they called it unfilmable because, there's a thing called creative, what is it called? Creative rights, basically. In the movie theater or in the movie business, if you adapt a movie to from a book, you know, there are going to be those steps that you take to kind of make it your own, as well as kind of follow along with the book. I mean, we saw it with Lord of the Rings. We saw it with like Harry Potter. We've seen it with like a lot of comic book movies. There's been a bunch. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm just naming the ones that, you know, you might have heard of. But going with that, you know, I believe the first Dune movie that came out was in 1984, and it was intended to be like a 3-part series. It was all recorded, it was all done, but it was cut down to about 2 hours. And it was horribly received. A lot of deviation from the book. It didn't go over well. I believe it has, like in our beard rating system, I don't know exactly how it works. But out of 5, it was given a 2.5. So probably for me and Garrett, it would have probably gotten like a 2 tops. But regardless of that fact, it was poorly received, and so, you know, nobody wanted to touch the books or you know, touch the movie idea for a long, long time. But obviously, you know, the movie got made, and you know, they did a great job in my opinion. So no issues there. I'm gonna jump into the cast and crew. Well, not the crew, just the main people you would know of. Timothy Chalamet, he played Paul. We had Rebecca Ferguson, who played Paul's mom. We had Zendaya. We had Oscar Isaac. Love that guy. Jason Momoa. Also love that guy. Stellan Skarsgård. Love that guy as well. Let's see. We had Josh Brolin. Love that guy. And we had Javier Bardem. Love that guy. And then, of course, Dave Bautista. Everybody else, I will butcher their names if I try and say them. But gosh, David Dastmalchian. He was Polka Dot in the Suicide Squad. Love that guy. But anyways, going on. A brief synopsis of the movie. It's an adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about a son of a noble family entrusted with protection of the most valuable asset and most vital element in the galaxy. That is the wildest and briefest description, and I got almost none of that from the movie. Maybe? Well, kind of. Yeah, I could see it. So, basically in the movie, House of Atreyu is like the house that they're a part of, you know, this noble group. They live on their own planet, and then they're entrusted with going to a new planet and trying to not necessarily cohabitate with the natives there, but there is like this, and again, I've read the books, so people that have read the books, and that are just like, this guy fucking sucks. All right, hear me out. I didn't take super detailed notes. I took notes. Don't you think I didn't? But I don't remember what it was called. There's this stuff on the ground that they collect that they can use for interstellar space travel, which is vital to, you know, people traveling, you know, different planets. Makes sense to me. The natives there use that as sort of a ritualistic thing, not in like any sort of bad way. It helps them. It heightens their, you know, psychic sense, if you will. And I could be butchering this, but kind of the whole plot of the movie, but also still very confusing. But I'm just going to get into my likes and dislikes. And again, spoilers ahead. Okay? My likes. And I know I say this about a lot of movies, but truly a beautifully shot, just 100%, every single aspect of this movie, every scene, every detail, the way it was shot was spectacular. I put that every shot that I saw was gorgeous. So I mean, I watched the whole movie. Every shot was gorgeous. Boom, problem solved. There was a lot of emotion that wasn't being physically said. You know, like the characters weren't expressing it verbally, but you could see it in their faces. And the cast that they had did a fantastic job of expressing those emotions on screen, and it looked wonderful. Like, I have to admit. Other things that I liked about the movie, all around, it was just good acting. Every scene was just visually beautiful. Some of the goofier stuff that I liked a lot of the choreographed fighting scenes. They're the bad guys in the movie that have like basically they have like this kinetic armor, right? Everybody has it, I guess. So if you're being hit with kinetic force, which is just like it will stop the impact of that. So the only way to get through to somebody is a slow jab, barely any kinetic energy to break through the armor and actually injure or kill somebody. So that's cool. So in the movie, they have like these little tiny things that are like probably the size of just your average honeybee, called hunter killers, that can fly in the armor, and it spins into it, and then it breaks through the armor and it'll kill you. That was cool. I mean, knives and stuff work, yeah, but you have to go slow. You gotta go real slow when you get in there. But I digress. I thought that was cool. The bad guys in the movie, they had like these they almost reminded me of like stormtroopers from Star Wars that could fly, but they were really stealthy. I don't know why, but I just liked how slow that they like whenever they floated down like real sneakily, you could just tell that these guys were just on wires, just slowly being lowered, and they had no idea what they were doing. They were just told to land and then follow their prompts. That's what they did. But I mean, it looked cool. But I mean, you could definitely tell because it kind of looked a little bit silly. But I mean, it wasn't horrible. Like, it didn't ruin the movie. There's one scene in particular where like they're in this giant sand pit hiding, and then you just see these guys slowly going down. And I just see that, and I was like, that's funny. I don't know why. It just is. It kind of reminded me of like Boba Fett whenever he flies in somewhere real slowly. And I mean, I know this movie is called Dune, and when you think of a dune, you think of a desert. I get it. They're in the desert. Yeah. This kind of gave me like weird but funny Star Wars vibes, just kind of all around, and more so than not, because you had Oscar Isaac in there. I hope that's his name, otherwise I butchered it. Yeah, Oscar Isaac, because he was in the new Star Wars movies that we don't actually really talk about because they're not as good as the original or the prequels. But I don't want to start a fight here. Or do I? Let me know in the comments down below on the YouTube page. Do you prefer the new Star Wars or, the prequels or the original ones? I'm very anxious to see somebody fight about that. Because I will fight back with you. What else do I have? This is just scene-wise. At the very end of the movie, there's just a dude riding one of these giant worms. Like, if you've ever... this is more for the younger audience, but not super young. If you've ever watched the episode of SpongeBob where there's a giant bullworm, that's kind of like this, but real time in a desert, hunting you down. All right? And it was absolutely terrifying. Or I guess, imagine for the older people listening, if you've ever seen the movie Tremors, right? Kind of like that, but way bigger. Like, imagine whale-size worms, but way longer too. That's kind of where this movie was at. Which it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I also get. But there's a whole lot of things that kind of remind me of Star Wars in this. I don't know how many people have actually watched The Mandalorian. And the ones that have, shout out to you. You guys will get this. At the end of The Mandalorian, whenever he met, God, is it Boba Fett? No, it's Jango Fett. I think it's Jango Fett. Jango Fett. Excuse me. Whenever he meets Jango Fett, and he's in that little hidden area on Tatooine, there's like a worm, like the Rancor. No, not the Rancor pit. There's a worm pit in Star Wars that they throw people in. And for some reason I'm drawing a blank on it, and I'm not Googling it. I'm just not doing it. Anyways, whenever the worm ate somebody in this movie, it kind of reminded me a lot of that. I was just like, you know what? I bet people could survive down there, just like in Star Wars. And I know I keep referencing other movies, but I have literally nothing to base this movie off of. So I'm trying to relate genuinely to everybody listening because, boy, let me tell you something. This movie, a little confusing, a little hard to follow, but I was getting it. It just, there's a lot of, obviously this is a movie that ran about 2.5 hours. So I had to pause it one time, and I just had to take a quick pee break and grab a drink. And then I was just back on top of it. I got about an hour and a half in, and I was just like, you know what? I need a little bit of a break, and then we'll call it a day. But all in all, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. There's no way to just beat around the bush on that one. This was a genuinely good movie that going into it, before Garrett got lost in the woods, me and him talked about what movie we would do this week. And we both were like, you know what? Dune's coming out. I want to do that. And we were both in agreement. And then Garrett went camping and was probably lost somewhere in the woods now, listening to my podcast on 2% battery instead of calling the cops after escaping whatever was chasing him. Probably a bear. I've read Gary Paulson's Hatchet, so that's probably along the lines of what happened. But who knows, anyways, that's kind of my likes. I don't want to go too deep into my likes. Like I said, I want to give you a general, overall kind of, this is what it is, this is how it was. Not anything too detail oriented to give away any of the plot or anything like that. Keeping it generalized. Now, going on to my dislikes, we all know who Dave Bautista is, whether when he was wrestling or in the Guardians of the Galaxy, or he played like a bodyguard for a little girl or something. There was a bad movie that he made. Anyways, regardless, seeing Dave Bautista white, like milky white, was very off-putting. Every bad guy in this movie kind of had like Voldemort vibes because they were all bald. They all had weird eyes. And it was just unsettling. They looked funny. It wasn't like it looked bad. It just looked weird because, every movie villain obviously looks weird, some way, shape, or form. They're meant to, It's a distinguishing characteristic or quality of the bad guy, and I get it. I am gonna make a little bit of a Fortnite reference here. Kind of like halfway through the movie, once they got to the planet covered in sand, don't know the name of it because I wasn't paying attention that deeply. Which, you know what? Maybe I should have, but I didn't. There was like a bus or something like that and a hot air balloon. And all I kept thinking, because of today's culture, is I was like, oh, dude, it's the battle bus. And then I hated myself immediately after and thought of just putting a gun in my mouth. But, I wrote it down because it looked exactly like it. And I just wanted it to be known that, Fortnite's probably going to add some Dune characters in, and it's probably going to be very upsetting. And I'm going to move on just immediately now. Um, Obviously, like I said, Jason Momoa was in this movie. A little drink break, real quick, a little sip. He was, and we've all seen Jason Momoa, no matter if it was in Frontier or Game of Thrones or Aquaman or Batman versus or the Justice League, either the Snyder Cut or the other one. We don't talk about the other one though. We've all seen him with a beard. Looks good. Like halfway through this movie, just suddenly no beard. Now, you know how you're accustomed to seeing somebody with a beard for a very long time, and then it's just gone, and you're like, wait, I know who you are, but what the hell, man? Like, I'll shave my beard probably, I don't know, once every 6 months, There's a point where it starts getting too long and it gets irritating, and I fuck up when I'm trimming it and just shave it all off. So, I saw him without a beard, and I didn't like it. So that's one of my dislikes. In the movie, they're called the Fremen, the native people on this planet. At the very beginning of the movie, Paul, the main character, the dude, he's just studying up on the planet before he actually goes there. And he was watching something about how the natives walk in the sand, because it kind of simulates the wind. That way the worms underground don't come at you, because they have like gadgets and things like that to deter the worms that just make like this thumping sound. That's it. And the worms go towards it because it sounds like, footprints. It sounds like people walking. So the way that they move is like a step, a sweep, another sweep, and a step. All right? There's a part where after they escape, the bad guys, after they take over, not ruining anything. I'm trying not to, at least. There's a part where, he meets all these guys, and not a single fucking one of them walks like that. They all just walk normal. For after that very beginning scene where he's learning about the Fremen and how they walk, probably about hour 45 in, he does it once. He shows his mom how to do it, and that's the last time they do it. After that, they're just running. And it didn't make sense to me. It's just a minor thing, but it seems like if this is the way that they're taught to do things, like if that's their culture, that's how they walk to avoid, being eaten by giant worms. Seems like they'd be walking like that every day, very consistently even. But no, nobody did that. Nobody did that, and it bugged me a little bit, but just enough to say something about it. I'm done with my notes. I'm done with that. Normally, Garrett would throw some trivia my way, but unfortunately, Garrett, again, is still lost in the woods. So, I'm going to go through just a little bit, and see what I've got. This film, it sports a distinctive Arabic theme, in keeping with the author Frank Herbert having using Islamic culture as an influence for his story. Let's see. It says that Sting was considered for a cameo or a small role in this film after starring in David Lynch's Dune. But they ended up just writing him off immediately and just not doing it. In the 1984 Dune, the Harkonnen, which I believe are the bad guys, were all depicted as having red hair, but in this movie, they all looked like Lord Voldemort, or just bald, like I said. it says that this film takes a number of liberties with costuming. The still suits on the Fremen were designed to capture all moisture, including a mask that covered their mouth. And it would be difficult on film, as one could not see the mouths of the characters when they were speaking. Another liberty is in the still suits being a dark color, which made the actors much more visible on camera, whereas in the suits in the book were a color that made it easier to hide. So, more of a sandy color. Obviously, that'd be really difficult because they did a lot of these cinematic shots where they were really far away. But like they kind of made up for it because they had like billowing capes that were not necessarily capes. It was cloth, but it was a sandy color that they wore over it. So I mean, kinda. Let's see. Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Paul's mom, which Paul is played by Timothée Chalamet. He played his mom, even though they're only 12 years age difference between the two of them. So it's a fact, I got nothing else. Let's see. I've got nothing. Oh, wait, here we go. Actor Timothée Chalamet was 23 when he played Paul Atreides, the main character. 2 years younger than Kyle MacLachlan when he played the same role in Dune in 1984. But in reality, Paul's like 15 years old in the books. So there you go. What other little cool facts are there about the movie? Oh, apparently the film was leaked online on October 17th ahead of its October 22nd premiere. Let's see. It says similar to Tenet, which we did a review on, and Birds of Prey. Maybe we did I don't remember. Warner Brothers released an exclusive teaser trailer only in theaters before releasing an official trailer online. The more you know. I've got nothing else. That's pretty much it. My overall consensus, because again, this is going to be like one of those shorter podcasts because Garrett's normally 30 minutes of talking. I'm normally 30 minutes of talking. Together, you get about an hour. Singularly, you get about 30 minutes, give or take. And you get a burp. Overall, though, I will say I did quite enjoy this movie. If I had to rate it out of 5, I would give this 4.5 Jason Momoa beards before he shaved, obviously. This movie was, like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. But in our beard rating terms, it's out of 5. So I would say this is probably one of the best movies that I've watched that we've done a movie review on. And if you're, listening or watching this podcast right now, it's on HBOmax. So, I mean, go watch it. And if you have already, kudos to you for watching and then listening to the podcast. Because, like I said, I'm trying to be very vague so I don't ruin any key plots for anybody. Because I'm sure Garrett's going to end up listening to this podcast before he actually watches the movie and then decides, I might watch it. Who knows? But regardless of any of that, I think that's it for me. Honestly, it was a good movie. I can't keep talking about nothing for another 30 minutes. I've kind of wrapped up and said everything that I liked, and I don't take detailed notes. So, I mean, for Beard and a Half movie reviews, I'm Tyler. I want to thank everybody that listened to this week's episode. Apologies, it's a little bit shorter than most. It happens. But being me, it'll be a good episode. I promise you. Again, Not trying to spoil anything for anybody. People die. But, all in all, I really enjoyed it. So, before I go, we do have a TikTok. I think it's called Beard and a Half Movie Reviews, something like that. We have a Twitter, Bearded Movies, at Bearded Movies. We have a Facebook, Beard and a Half Movie Reviews, Instagram, Beard and a Half Movie Reviews. And if you're watching on YouTube and you've made it this far, first of all, kudos to you. Make sure you hit the like button, or as Garrett says, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're following us wherever. I don't care. If you're listening to the podcast, it should be in the description with the link tree. Click on that. It might say click here. Go follow us everywhere. I don't care. If you don't have it, make it. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for me. Once again, I'm Tyler with Beard and a Half Movie Reviews. And I'd like to thank everybody that tuned into this week's episode. Hopefully Garrett makes it out of the woods next week. And I will talk to you guys. I threw my pen, but I will talk to you guys later. Peace out, Girl Scouts.